Welcome to Try to Thrive, the podcast where passion meets endurance and every finish line is just the beginning. We're here to inspire, challenge, and share our journey through swim, bike, run, and beyond.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third episode of Try to Thrive. Today we are talking about strength training for triathletes. Yay or nay? What do you think, Dennis?
The question is, what do you think, Chris?
Well, I think we will cover that in a little bit. I have some struggles over the past few weeks, but we go into the details later. Today, third episode, and this time it is a remote session because Dennis is not in Krakow. Dennis, where are you right now?
I'm at the moment in Gdańsk.
Gdańsk.
Very beautiful city. Beautiful weather today, sunny, 13 degrees, perfect for a long run.
Okay, perfect. What is coming up?
I'm on a business trip now and going to Germany on Tuesday. So had to travel, spent the weekend in Torun, and can't wait to continue my triathlon journey and my podcast journey with you, Chris, and with all of you listening to us. First time also with video.
Exactly.
Will be cool.
Hopefully we are not struggling. And I can tell you this time you will not hear any planes in the background, as well as people leaving the hotel with their suitcases.
But in case you miss the planes, you will be able to see some planes if Chris allows you to see them.
Oh, exactly. So, it's a little bit blurry, but you are in my home office here, and I am an enthusiast when it comes to space and planes as well. Yeah. So, if you just joined, you can expect today a session full packed of our experience when it comes to strength training. What are we doing? How do we executing it? What is in for triathletes, why it is important for us, and why are we doing that. But before we jump into the topic, I want to announce something that really makes me proud and happy. Because if you jump back to our first episode and with the interview with Dennis said that he is doing his first Ironman in 6 weeks. That has been passed right now. And Dennis, take us on your journey. And I can say proudly that because I was checking it on the app, a couple of people in our team, we were following Dennis on the route. Tell us, take us on the journey. How was it your first triathlon? I'm super curious. Tell us more.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being as excited as I was during the Ironman 70.3. It was not a full Ironman. The full Ironman is in 2 weeks. But still, I did a half Ironman or 70.3 Ironman. You can see the backpack in the back.
Not yet.
So I
Not
had
yet.
to show him here, but he will have one for sure. Yeah, so it's not my first triathlon. So I did already a few before, but not such a long one. And I can say that, first of all, the organization with the Ironman triathlons are very, very good. I was in Venice here solo, and here it was just a very lovely experience with a lot of triathlon lovers, enthusiasts, and the whole city was just packed with triathletes. There was barely any other tourists there, mostly Germans and Austrians, so most people were speaking English perfectly well for me and Chris as well. Talking about the triathlon itself, I was very well prepared, and even the swim went relatively smoothly with 40 minutes in the Adriatic Sea. Not too bad for someone who just learned how to swim 1.5 years ago. The bike leg is very, very flat, so you barely have any elevation there. The only elevation are some bridges made especially for this triathlon so that cars can pass the course. So you have like 2 or 3 bridges where you have to go with 7-8% uphill, which is also a little bit dangerous. A lot of people lost their bottles and some nutrition. When it comes to the bike, it was very hard to not draft. As some of the listeners know, some of you will know that Ironman triathlons are in a drafting format. If you do a Olympic triathlon, you can draft, which means you can drive exactly behind a different triathlete. At Ironman events, you cannot do that. You have to leave 12 meters in front of you. I was very surprised that most of the time I had people behind me, and very often I had people in front of me, and it was very hard to not draft because there were too many people. The flat course made it impossible. And the run, also very flat, but kind of a tricky course with a lot of turns and not so bright paths you have to run, especially on the beach. So that was not so easy. And at the end, there were a lot of people. So around 3,000 people started. And I think 2,600 made it to the finish line. And when I finished, when I was doing my last lap on the run course, it was just packed and it was very hard to overtake. So my pace went also down a little bit, couldn't keep it up because of the overtaking and the course because it was so hard to overtake. But then when you make it to the finish line, you're just very happy.
I can imagine.
It's worth trying it out.
So if you would sum up and if you would give our listeners or you who listens to the podcast, if you would give someone an advice, what would that be?
And depends on where this person is right now, right? So an advice just before the first 70.3 or advice?
Advice for the preparation to survive this whole journey that you were describing.
Consistency, I think, is the best advice. I felt straight after the triathlon, I felt okay. I didn't have much pain. I didn't have anything bad going on. I think I could have pushed a little bit more during the run at the end, which I didn't do. But yeah, I trained a lot. I trained very consistently, just a few rest days. And I think that's why I didn't have these problems at the end or one day after. So yeah, consistency, listen to your body, don't overdo if you feel some dangerous pain. That's my advice.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for taking everyone on this journey. That was really impressive.
The advice of a one-time Ironman 70.3 finisher. That's a lot of experience for you guys.
We are all starting this journey, and hopefully you are following us along as well.
Perhaps I can add one thing. Maybe we have someone else who did a 70.3 Ironman, or many of them, and you listen to the podcast. If you have a better advice, please comment on one of our channels or on the podcast on Spotify, wherever. If you can share your advice, we will be very happy.
Great. So let's jump straight into the topic. Dennis, you are training a lot and you are doing as well some of strength training, yes?
I do actually. I even started when I got back into regular sports. I started with strength training. So I do a lot of strength training twice, 3 times per week. I do it very regularly. How about you, Chris?
And you know, it's exactly my weak point, Dennis. So actually, I need to take you a little bit back on my journey, because if you listen to the first episode, I told everyone that I was running a lot, and then somehow my running journey got a little bit disrupted by some pain and issues that I had. After that, I thought, well, I still need to do something. I still need to do some sports. And I did a lot of strength training. And I was going to a gym. I had a very good gym buddy. Hopefully he's listening as well. We were going nearly every day because we really had a routine. Before going to the job, we went straight to the gym. We trained a lot, different parts of the body, but it was not functional training. I would say it was more going into the bodybuilding part of it. So I wouldn't recommend that kind of training that I did for triathletes. But yes, I did that and we had really great fun. Right now, to be very honest, I am struggling to get everything in my daily routine included. And right now, I just train areas where I'm very weak, especially when it comes to my job, my daily job. I'm sitting a lot. So sometimes when I do swimming or when I do biking, I have some problems with the back. So I try to do some kind of Pilates, some workouts regarding this, especially with my tibia, which is still hurting. I was going to a physiotherapist and I have been advised to do some trainings with the TerraBand, and that's it. I know I need to do more, but basically that's it, just to be in shape to do my training. That's it.
Interesting, Chris. Also interesting that you were doing bodybuilding before.
It's a
Is
bit,
it weak or can I just continue?
it says it's a bit, let's continue.
Let's continue. Okay. It's very interesting that you say that you were also doing bodybuilding. And I would, in a second, I would also like to talk a little bit more about your past, how you were training when you were doing bodybuilding, and perhaps how exactly you train now. But before we come to that point, I would let all the listeners know why we actually have this podcast today about strength training.
Good point.
And yes, in my opinion, it's so important to do strength training. And I've also what you said, Chris, I find myself also back in it that, there was a time I was doing strength training to gain muscles, but then I stopped. And it was so visible that I just, over the passing of time, I lost muscles just by the passing of time. And that's why me personally, I'm not exactly sure how you think, Chris, but me personally, I believe that strength training is so important that whatever you do, not only if we talk about triathlon, but like in general in your life, we should have a strength training routine. And for this, I would like to show you, Chris, and also everyone watching or listening to our video, few pictures. I'm just gonna share my screen. Give me a second. So, Chris, can you see now
Yes,
the screen?
I can see.
Okay, so here you can see the MRI scan of a leg of the thighs of a 40-year-old triathlete. And if you look at it, the thing here in the middle, it's the bone. And here, everything that is dark, that's the muscle mass. What is white is fat. Chris, what do you think? Does it look strong or weak?
I think it looks strong as it has quite some muscles and not a lot of fat. So that's how I would interpret it as a non-medical educated person.
Yeah. Maybe it was not a good idea that I showed you that it's a 40-year-old triathlete already. So maybe you're biased. But okay, let's move then to the next picture. Here you can see a 74-year-old sedentary man. So a man that is, in his older age. And what you can see here, it's almost the same size of leg, but mostly everything is fat. And even inside the muscles, you see a lot of fat. The quadriceps muscle is so little and so weak. And also you can see that the bones are much smaller than in the 40-year-old triathlete. What do you think, Chris? Does that look as
That
if this man can do a lot in his older age?
I think that looks a bit unhealthy, to be very honest. I mean, if I would look for a steak and you see quite a lot of fat in between, that might be something that can be tasty or that can be very expensive, but definitively not for a human. So that doesn't look good. Okay.
Yeah. And if we think now about, I mean, we know someone who is 60, 70, 80 years old, and we see this person and we know that the person is not moving a lot. And very often we can see that their movement gets like very robotic. The back goes like to the front and they have not a good posture. And this is all connected to when you will not move enough or when you not work out. And the next picture, you can see a 70-year-old triathlete. Chris, do you remember the picture of the 40-year-old triathlete?
Well, yes, I actually do not see a lot of difference, if I can recall it correctly. That looks impressive.
Yeah, I think even here we see less fat.
It can be, yes.
Other than that, I do not see any difference. It's so important to have a strength training routine to just not lose muscles. There is a medical term for it. It's called sarcopenia. And by the age of 35, 40, every human being usually loses muscle mass. And if we don't train and fight against it, much likely, yeah, it can be that our muscles will be like this. And then it can be that we will be 80 years old and we can't get out of the house alone anymore. So why do we need the strength routine? It's not only because we want to have a PB in a triathlon, but it's the long-term goal that we want to be healthy, we want to be thriving. And that's why we've chosen the topic of strength for the third episode before we even talk about the disciplines. So that's the point I wanted to make. Chris, do you have any questions? Or do you want to see anything, or can I stop sharing the screen?
I think that is a great picture and that is a good illustration how important it really is. I think from the sharing perspective, we will also put this image, a link in the show description. And you said something what is thriving me and reminding me always when it comes to strength training. Because if I see older people with a very, very bad posture, it always reminds me on I need to work on this. I need to stay on top of it because I do not want to end with a higher age like 50, 60 and have a posture that, I can't really walk straight. And that is a little bit of a fear. And especially talking about myself, sitting every day in front of the computer, that's not very healthy. So I need to work towards that. I think that gives me a lot of motivation in order to go back to my strength routine and put that into my daily workouts as well. You said you're going regularly, but we also need to bike, swim, ride, running.
Mhm.
How do you come to a conclusion and to a plan that you build that into your training plan? Because to be honest, I'm struggling. How do you do that?
It's not always so easy, especially when you have a lot of high volume, which I have at the moment right now. This week, I think I have 16 hours of training, and I should have had 18 or 19 hours. So I didn't even do that much training as my coach planned for me. But even though I had so many hours of swimming, biking, running, I put in 3 trainings of workouts in the gym, and 2 of them actually were only 20 minutes.
Okay.
But I went to the gym and I did these 20 minutes. So I showed up. That's the most important thing, that I showed up. But my routine actually is very, very simple, I would say. You were talking before about that you were also going to the gym and you were doing some bodybuilding workout. By the way, I would like to see a picture.
No worries, I can show.
Yeah, I'm very interested to get to know what your exact routine would look like back then and how it looks like now.
Yeah.
But for me, my routine now doesn't look much different to my training routine when I tried to gain muscles, where that was my only goal actually by training to gain more muscles. I train with so-called big exercises when you use more than one muscle. I don't train my muscles isolated, or very rarely I do that. What does that mean? I will not go to the gym and take a barbell and do like biceps curls. I will not do that because then I would only work on an isolating way on my biceps. So first of all, it's not very functional. Second of all, it would take a lot of time if you train every muscle like that. So usually I always have a full body workout, or at least if I cannot train my legs because my legs are so tired, then upper body workout. And usually these are like exercises like squats, push-ups, bench press, pull-ups, shoulder press, dips, deadlift. That's an awesome exercise because you use your back, and rowing. I can imagine that some of the listeners will not know what deadlift is. I would advise everyone to check these exercises. You can find videos on YouTube where people explain how to do deadlift, rowing, dips, shoulder press, pull-ups in the right way. And the good thing with all these exercises, you're not training a muscle in an isolating way. So you always have several muscles working together and you really get strength. You can have then theoretically 2 or 3 exercises like I did. For example, on Thursday, I had 3 exercises, 3 sets, and I was done. I didn't need more. So that's what I did this week.
Okay. I have a question to you when it comes to the routine. You mentioned a gym. Some people that might be a little bit difficult to drive to a gym, to spend some time. Can you do quite of these exercises at home? What would you advise?
So you can also do exercises at home. You find a way where you can do pull-ups, I guess. Even if you find a place where kids play, you just hang somewhere and you can do pull-ups and push-ups. You can train your abs. You can do core workout. But in my philosophy, it's very important to have these exercises where you train several muscles at the same time. You have to also have some weight, so it needs to be more weight. For people that do it the first time, it can be very complicated the first time if you do that. Even if you have a gym, because you have to coordinate it and you have to stabilize the weight because it's free weights. So the good thing with gyms is also, which I'm also a fan of a gym, you can find machines where you can do the same movement, but you don't have to coordinate the barbell. You can just push it or you can just pull it. But for sure, even if you don't find a gym, you can do certain exercises at home. They will be just fine just to get a workout done. You can do push-ups. You can do with a chair this exercise for the triceps, for example. Then it's like similar to a dip. For example, here also online, you will find exercises that are similar. You can just search for it also online. And I believe also the most important thing is to have consistency. So you can also have some variety. It's always better to do something, even if it's only 20 minutes or 10 minutes, than doing nothing because you think, oh, I'm at home. I'm not going to do it this time. Because if you don't do it often enough, it will not work. If you only go to the gym every other week, it's not enough.
Okay. So splitting even an hour workout into several days is more efficient than, having going once a week to the gym.
It depends. It can also be sufficient for one person to do it in 1 hour once per week. I wouldn't generalize here, but in my opinion, if you are new to the sport and you cannot go to the gym today, or you plan to go to the gym, but you cannot go to the gym today, then do something at home. Choose 3 exercises for 3 different muscle groups and do exercises for it at home. It's for sure better than just going once per week, especially if you are completely new to strength training. I believe then it's more important to do it more often. And then 20 minutes and 3 times per week is perhaps better than once per week for 1 hour. You have to push yourself, and it's for sure better to give the impulse a few times per week than kill yourself once
Okay.
and then don't do anything.
A good advice, Dennis. And what I also recently heard from a friend, she was just starting going to the gym and she found a very good gym and they have some trainers, some personal training, what she's doing. And she said she's really enjoying it. It helps her a lot. The trainer is showing some exercises because especially later on when you work with free weight and you do some exercises and execution in the wrong way, actually you can, not do good for your body, not do good. So less weight, but a clean exercise and clean execution, that is very important. And sometimes it's really hard to judge yourself. You can remind yourself, check some illustration, but she said this is really great, this is helping her, and you can do it as long as you need it to get a little bit more educated and do a little bit more experiences, and then based on that, you can go without a trainer and do yourself. This is also one.
That's a very good point. I think in everything in life that when you start with something, much likely you will not be very, very good at it. And you can make mistakes. And very often people think that like, oh yeah, I don't want to pay for a trainer. But if you cannot pay for a trainer because you don't have money, can also be you're a student or whatever, then yeah, try to find someone who in the gym perhaps can help you. Maybe someone else, maybe you have a friend. I made use of that as well, but ultimately it would be best if you regularly train with a personal trainer, at least to get to know how the exercises work. Even if you watch these videos, it can be that you see it, you think like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it in the same way, but yeah, you don't. So
Exactly.
it's a very good point, Chris. That's true.
Yeah. Right now,
And how you did it before.
how I
It's
did.
also interesting
Okay.
because you were a bodybuilder.
No, I was not. Right.
Show us the
That's right.
picture.
Don't have it
Show
handy
us the
yet.
picture.
Don't have it handy yet. I did exactly the opposite from what you did. For me, it was not functional. It was more isolated. For example, hammer curl you didn't like
Mm.
because it was isolated. I was doing that, especially because I trained quite hard a specific muscle group on one specific day. One day I did upper body. Next day I did some related core training for the back and for the belly muscles. The other day I did focus on legs, for example. So that's why I did really isolated moves. But obviously, I did also some deadlifts, bench press, squats, those kinds of exercises. But really, I focused on being isolated. And
Mm.
if we think about our main disciplines, swimming, biking, running, isolated workouts are not very efficient. I'm with you 100%. Doing functional training is way, way more beneficial. So what I do right now in terms of workouts, I sometimes join my wife because she's pushing me as well. She's doing some home exercises on YouTube. It's a little bit motivating to have someone in front of you doing the exercise. So I did this week, actually, I did with her a training and it was great. And I was struggling, to be honest. I was thinking I'm fit, right? Because she obviously is not doing as much training as I'm doing in terms of all our disciplines. But I think she was in a better shape when it comes to all training, and I need to catch up, that's for sure. Other than this, I just train some muscles around my tibia because this is actually an area that I need to improve. And I went to a physiotherapist and she showed me that weak spots. So basically, very honest, Dennis, I started training some of my muscle groups after I had some issues. And the
Mm.
issues became worse over time. I was even chatting with you about that. You gave me a great hint to where to go when it comes to physiotherapy. I went to the physiotherapist and she immediately showed me my weak spots and pointed me some of the areas that I need to improve. And that's why I
Mm.
started.
I think a lot of people have something in common with you. Me as well. We go to see a physiotherapist when we have pain.
Exactly. I have my next appointment on Monday.
Yeah,
Actually, tomorrow.
yeah.
Tomorrow, 8 a.m.
I switch and see physiotherapists now regularly before I have pain. And that's even better because then you very often you find out some disbalances you can have. And like with your example, with your tibia, perhaps if you would have seen a physiotherapist even earlier, you would have had less problems. What do you think?
Absolutely. And if I would have even done core training or strength training before in a proper way, maybe I could save my money not seeing any physiotherapist at all. Although it's highly recommended from time to time, especially if you train hard, to see it on a regular basis. So this is also something, being proactive. And I think this is very important, not only to stay healthy, but also to stay on top of your training and execute it without any issues. Proactive strength training and core training can prevent a lot of issues. This is my personal experience, and this is an advice that I can give to you and to everyone.
Chris, that's a very good advice. I agree. And if we talk about physiotherapists, even now I go so regular to see a physiotherapist, and I found out about so many different imbalances in my body. For example, one imbalance is that my lower chest is on both sides very strong, like relatively strong. I can do a lot of dips. I can do dips with additional weight. But if it comes to my upper chest, I am very weak. And that is the reason why my shoulders tend to go like this. Even when I push something, like my shoulders tend to go to the front. And this here is very weak. So only because I went to see my physiotherapist, I found out that I have this issue. So now I focus more on the upper chest
Yeah.
and I don't do the flat bench press now. I do the bench press inclined.
Okay.
I should Google it quickly, how you call it.
No worries. I think also what is
Yeah.
very a therapist is showing you the right exercise that you can do to improve.
It's incline bench press. Incline bench press. Yes, that's for the upper chest. So very important to seek help from time to time. And if you don't have the money for a physiotherapist or for a personal trainer, you can always try to find other people that do the same like you, and you will get feedback like we do with our group.
I agree. Having a great community with people that are like-minded, that like to strive with you as well, this is super important and helps you a lot.
Yes.
Yes, Dennis.
What else do we want to talk about?
I think I learned a lot today. I think I need to go back to my strength routines and work on that. So next time you will be back, maybe we can go together to the gym.
We should. But before we do that, let's sum up very quickly at the end what we were talking about today and what are the points everyone can take home, or also we can take home because we also do it to learn. What do you think, Chris? What can you remember what we talked about? Give me one point.
Strength training makes you even stronger if you think about your health in the long term, not only for triathletes. So it's very important that your core, that your muscles are prepared to get older, because if we get older, we get weaker, right? This is one of the points that you pointed out. So this is something we all need to work on. Nevertheless, if you do triathlon or if you do only running, swimming, biking, doesn't matter, we need to prevent our body from getting weaker and weaker. This is my main point I'm taking.
Exactly, exactly. So that's something we talked about. We were talking about the different types of training someone could do. Mainly, we said that it's better if you do it functional, less isolating. Here you can, of course, talk about it, what is better, but indicate if you talk about triathlon, I think isolating movements are not so helpful. Can we do it also at home? Do we have to do it in the gym? Can also do it at home. Of course, gym is better. Find someone that can look at your training or maybe imbalances in your body, get feedback. Physiotherapy is also an important point that Chris pointed out. Is there anything else? Did I forget something?
I think you covered all our main areas from today. And being rather proactive than reactive. I think this is something, if you follow your guide, then you're good to go.
Yeah. So now we had 40 minutes of conversation about strength training, Chris. We talked 40 minutes about it. And yeah, I really want to know even more. I would like to learn much more because in case of my training, I have some knowledge, but I would be very, very keen to learn more about strength training also if someone of our listeners has a different view or different ideas, something that is even, yeah, a completely different opinion to what Chris and I said. That's why we also post it online, because we want to learn more. So if you can give us an idea, or if you have a certain topic you would like us to talk again and you have some views on it, yeah, just share it with us. We would be happy to get to know that. Chris, what do you think?
Absolutely. Feedback is really important for us. So everyone, please share all your comments, post it on all our platforms. Follow us, like and subscribe. And with that being said, Dennis, are you ready to wrap it up?
Yes, I think we are.
All right. Then, Dennis, something that I would like to wish you is happy traveling. And I'm also very excited to hear your stories and following your full Ironman. That would be a pleasure. And I think we will share that as well in one of our next episodes.
Thank you, Chris. I wish you also a very good week. Thank you for the nice conversation. I hope we will have the opportunity to talk again about strength training. And yeah, thanks to you, Chris, I have this motivation to do so.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. Looking forward to hearing your feedback and talk to you until the next episode. Bye bye.